let you introduce yourself. We're here at the North Carolina Central University Centennial Symposium on HBCUs. And we are here with the Vice President of Student Government Association at NCCU.
I'm Brian Kennedy. I'm a uprising junior political science and history major.
And Brian just gave us a great talk on the continued need for HBCUs, and he was responded to by the president of Philander Smith College in Little Rock, Arkansas, Dr. Walter Kimbrough. And I thought you guys had a really great dialogue on why HBCUs are still needed, and in fact, how we create the want for HBCUs. So can you just speak to our readers about, from your research and the paper you presented, why HBCUs are still needed in the United States?
Well, in my research, I kind of came up with three main points why HBCUs are still needed. The first point would be that they aid in the community development. They are the reason, historically, they're the reason why the communities, we have these black communities that were so prosperous. You're probably familiar with the Hayti movement.
Sure,
Durham,
just here in Durham, an incredibly successful business community.
Exactly. And the HBCUs are responsible for that in the past, and they're continuing to be responsible for those today. And if we want our black communities to succeed, then we need these HBCUs. The second point was that HBCUs help develop psychological as well as economic, educational growth in African Americans in particular, in ways that PWIs have kind of been unable to, just because it's the responsibility of an institute to cater to the majority need, and only in HBCUs are African American students the majority. So that creates a situation where they're able to be catered to in a manner that other demographics are catered to at mainstream or PWI institutions.
Right, and for our readers, PWIs are predominantly white institutions. Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, because I think there are cultural aspects and aspects about history that aren't focused upon as well at PWIs. And go ahead, tell me about your last point.
The third point was that HBCUs, or historically black colleges and universities, really serve a demographic of students who are traditionally excluded from higher education. And the reason why these students are excluded from higher education are ones that's mainly socioeconomic. They might perform not as well on standardized tests such as SATs and ACTs or LSAT because of socioeconomic reasons as well as geographic reasons. So HBCUs understand that there are some factors that prevent certain students from achieving a certain score. But what HBCUs realize is that these scores aren't an indication of potential achievement. And so they accept these students and they teach them, and once they graduate, they're actually competitive and easily comparable with graduates from anywhere. Once they graduate, there's no difference in achievement. If you want to use the LSAT, for example, there's no difference in percentage of students passing the bar exam on the first attempt. So HBCUs really accept a class of people who would otherwise be forgotten about and not led into higher education, and they educate them not out of sympathy, but they educate them because they are just as intelligent and deserve to be educated.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. I was really struck by what you said in your paper, was just the economic difference in average SAT performance. Tell me again what that was.
Households whose income is below $20,000, students from those households average 891 points on the SAT. Students coming from households who earn more than $200,000 average 1142. And so it's a direct relation with economic halves and the score on the SAT. And also it goes into the schools. Public school systems, which have majority African American students, are underfunded programs, and they're unable to provide a lot of the programs that set students to do well in college. So, whereas these students are not receiving certain things they should receive because of their situation, not because of their own intellect, and they don't get the opportunity because they're being set back by things that are out of their control. So HBCUs realize this, and they compensate for it almost. They accept these students, and they give them a chance, and they succeed.
And doing the extra work. that's necessary. One thing that really struck me when Dr. Kimbrough was talking, and I follow him on Twitter. He's at Hip Hop Prez, and I'm only 3 years difference in age from him. And what struck me was he talked about harnessing Twitter, harnessing Facebook, and meeting students, on their playing ground. And I know some of our students, they don't want professors messing in their Facebook things and stuff, but you seem to have a really high perception of your professors. What do you think it is about your professors, how they met you, and how do you want them interacting with you on social media?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, there's some things on Facebook. Sometimes we have Facebooks and we just want to communicate with our friends, not with professors.
Yeah.
But actually, social networking tools can be really beneficial. For example, there are some professors that have blogs, and they blog about their lectures, I suppose, and just general topics that interest them. And stuff like that, following them on their blog is really a way to kind of quench your curiosity outside of the classroom. And that's one thing that I do. I know a lot of other people do that as well. But in terms of professors meeting students on common ground, I just think that it's the professor's responsibility to kind of understand that a student is well, first we have to understand we come from different generations. We think differently, we act differently, but we process information differently, but we all have the same goal. So I think professors realize that they, for lack of better words, they don't judge students,
right.
But rather accept students and try to understand students. I think students are willing to do the same thing with professors. And I mean, if a professor getting a Facebook account is kind of getting into the mindset of the student and allows them to really connect.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because we get different feedback from different students, and we have some students in the sciences who think, wow, my professor is a little bit on the hip side because he or she knows this is technology of the future, and at least they're trying to make the attempt, albeit if they're being uncool about it. I have this other question too, and we'll finish up, is that there was discussion earlier that I was really surprised when Secretary of Education Duncan was talking about the emphasis on trying to get more young black males into teaching. And I did not know that less than 2% of American school teachers are black males, which I think is, as Erskine Bowles said, is just shameful. Now you're going into political science, of course, but what do you think? What kind of role models did you have? I mean, you're hugely successful. You had a line of people waiting there in this room, waiting to talk to you about your talk. I mean, it's really just impressive, and you're obviously a student leader. What kind of role models did you have, and what kind of experiences drove you here that maybe didn't drive your fellow young men in your community to a university like NCCU?
It's interesting that you said it because I'm actually not surprised by the statistics.
You're not surprised?
I was in public schools from K through 12, so I had 13 years of public schools, and I never had a black male teacher. I had one black female teacher in the 4th grade. So it's not really surprising to me. What I did have was my father as a positive role model, and that really helped me out. The thing that motivated me to go to a HBCU was not necessarily a positive thing. It was kind of me being frustrated with not having positive role models, that not having teachers who look like me, or teachers who sympathize with me, or that type of thing. I guess I kind of realized, and what else also helped was that my parents both attended they attended North Carolina Central University, so I understood what was out there,
right.
And I was able to see that I wasn't getting that from my public school education.
Right.
So really, a lack of role models, a lack of examples, a lack of people looking like me doing things that I wanted to do drove me to go to an HBCU.
Yeah.
The only 2 schools I applied to was Howard and the Central, and I got into both.
Oh, that's great.
So I always knew that I was missing this element, and so I wanted to fulfill it. But in terms of positive role models, really my father and his friends and people who my parents associated with. But in the school system, like I said, I never had a black male teacher until I went to North Carolina Central University.
That's, like I said, that's one of the beautiful things about the symposium, is to learn where the needs still are and what we can do about that. I'm so excited to have met you today, and your talk was outstanding. I understand you've gotten requests to give it in front of political groups now, and And I just really congratulate you on your achievement today.
Thank you.
And I really look forward to working with you next year in your capacity as Vice President of Student Government. Mr. Brian Kennedy, a really outstanding young gentleman, thank you so much for your time with us today.